Hi everybody. Thank you, Alan, for the introduction. So I'm very happy to be here today. As Alan mentioned, we're the only ones with Philip to come here with two companies this year, with ottspott and Apidaze. So we were, I know most of the people here in this room, we were founding sponsors of TAD Summit back in 2013. And I'm always impressed to see how it has grown and how things are going in this space. So today I'm here more to talk about ottspott, which is an app, which is the story is always tied with TAD Summit. We did the first MVP that was presented here back in November 2015. It was really like something very basic, just an idea. Then last year I showed some like progress. We were just coming out of beta and like 10 months intense developments. But the first thing is we've been all talking about CPaaS, and Dean even mentioned today a new space which is white labeling CPaaS, which is called now CPaaS SaaS. So I'll try to resume a little bit the feeling and the experience we had, and trying to be very transparent with you. So most of you here know Apidaze since 2013. So we launched as a real-time communication API. We had a very strong focus on WebRTC because Philippe and I have like classic, let's say, telecom and VoIP and call center background. So we were absolutely fascinated since 2012 by WebRTC, and that was the reason why we started Apidaze. And that's how we came across Alan, beginning of 2013. So it was a very exciting journey. I could spend like a whole presentation telling what we did during all these 3 years. I think we did very good things, and I think also we failed on other things. One of the things we failed first was being in France and not elsewhere. Like 6 months after the launch, we talked a lot with investors, but it was very difficult for them. Things changed in France since then, but really like this platform business, and the only reference they had on the market was Twilio. And for most of the investors in France, it was the winner takes it all. So today we are here today. I think I never saw Twilio in a TAD event, and it's a very dynamic space with even lots of new companies appearing or merging and so on. So it's a very dynamic space. So we did what we could, like we say in French, but to be honest, we never like really felt that we could scale and accelerate a lot. So beginning of mid-2015, we decided maybe it was better like to bring out a service built out of our API. And that's what we did with ottspott. We white labeled also a call widget also in 2013, but didn't really like industrialize. We tried to sell it like to some people. So we launched ottspott end of 2015, and end of 2016 we moved to paid plans. And yeah, in September 2000 of this year, so thanks to TADS, we know a lot of people and we come across a lot of people. We felt that there was really an excitement in this space on CPaaS, and we were very happy, I'll tell this story short, to get in touch with David and Evan, whom we met here at TAD in Istanbul. And I think we really had a very, we were agreeing with most of the things. It was a little bit difficult for us like to think of leaving Apidaze behind, but I think it was a good choice because, as David explained this morning, VoIP Innovation has already like a distribution channel. They're a wholesale carrier, which is, I think, for me an asset for CPaaS. So I think it was a good decision. So there were no other motivations for us than saying, okay, it's a good deal, it keeps us in the space, and Apidaze is not going like to disappear, because I think now CPaaS is really booming and getting really industrialized. So we moved to SaaS. So for those of you who don't know ottspott, ottspott is a 100% software, voice, and SMS communications tool on top of Slack and Microsoft Teams. It's done. It's going to be launched in the next days. It's really, the 100% software is important. I know that in the UC space there are a lot of solutions, but from 1 year of selling ottspott, and from what we hear in events, the reality of the companies is not really the reality of what we hear here. People are still a lot behind. So the advantages is it's an instant and frictionless setup, and what people like, and this is also related to all this CPaaS stuff, is that they can do like one-click integrations without any development knowledge with all their data sources. I think someone, I don't know who was mentioning this morning, maybe DataArt, the interface of the phone today and with ottspott can be Slack, but it can also be one of these apps. It's not like a handset, it's not like a dial pad, it's the app. So they're using the app as a phone set. So, but ottspott users still get something, so they get SMS-enabled phone numbers, not in 60 countries, in US, Canada, and some European countries, but we have a large coverage. And basically the concept of ottspott is initially is a Slack call inbox. Most of you use Slack, so you have a channel, and that's where all the information and all notification reminders go and related to the phone number. So they're related to the phone number, everything goes into one channel. And you get the transcriptions and the sound files, call recordings, voicemails. And they also, this is something we introduced beginning of this year, a desktop app, because for inbound, for people who have like call centers or support desks, or have like 20 salespeople on the phone, calling from Slack was not really like a very good user experience. So they get a desktop app, in which they use with click-to-call inside their apps. So Slack, because that was a question I was asked 2 years ago here. Do you think that like Slack is really going to stay there? So I think so, more than ever. They have like 6 million daily users, not only in the US, and they have 50,000 paid teams and 2 million paid users. They have competition, and we can talk about that, so we looked in everything. So Facebook at Work is really like, I don't know, maybe some customers, large enterprises that they integrated. It's something we tested. Teams is kind of nice, and we're more expecting of Stride from Atlassian with replacing HipChat, which is very promising to us. But HipChat is not very user-friendly. So I think it's also interesting because we're talking about CPaaS and APIs and how all of these tools are used. So what Slack gets right is that they really have, we must confess, a great API. And we are big consumers of APIs. All these integrations we have here represent hundreds of hours working with these APIs, and we can talk about that. Some of them are great, and some of them are really not great. And the Slack API is great. Here's the list of things, and it's very well documented. It's constantly updated. If you have questions, they have a support. It's really, I would say, an API company in the good sense of the API company. So what do they get right? And this is also something that we heard since this morning. Marketplaces, showrooms, all of this. They have a great app directory. It's not perfect, but for the users, for people like us who are publishing an app, it's really great. Like all the process for submitting, everything is very well classified by categories, and also every week or every twice a month, They have like an internal, I think, team who is choosing what are the best apps, what are like new and noteworthy. I mean, they have featured apps and so on. So you also have this animation as a Slack app that at some point you have the motivation that you can be put on the front page. So that's what happened with Hotspot in February. We were, and we don't know, you cannot influence it. It's like, it's their choice. So we were featured during 2 weeks in February as a top app, top Slack app. And in the customer support and communication category, we are doing quite well. So you have a popularity ranking. You cannot cheat on that because it's depending on the installations, and the installations are made directly from their app store. So yeah, what can we expect from enterprise messaging platforms? Better APIs. Let's say hello Microsoft, because like integrating with Teams was a complete nightmare, and still is. Compared to Slack. So you can also see there the recipes for success for this kind of companies. Like great API, it's good. All the chain becomes positive. Of course, as a Slack app, we would like more promotion of the app directory, and everything is still very virtual. You know, we meet a lot of developer evangelists at Slack, but not really salespeople. I think they're getting organized. But this is something missing for the ecosystem really like to pop up. I mean, I really shared these slides. It's really for sharing. I think Slack is a good example because I really believe that for CPaaS, all these app stores, marketplaces is really a great concept, and I think the truth is really there. And I think Slack is a very good inspiration. So the experience in building more on the product side with Slack. So a lot of ideas we had at the beginning were false, of course, because we wanted to stuff everything inside Slack. And when we see the usage, it's not that way. So hence we built the desktop app. Slack is great for all the text communication and asynchronous voice, also because of the Slack mobile app, meaning when, example with Hotspot, if they can get like SMS directly in a Slack channel, they can get their voicemails, if they are not using Voxist. They can get their voicemails. They can get their voicemails transcribed, and they also, very popular feature, can get call recordings, which is something people love, to record calls, especially for sales processes. So I have to be honest, I think less than 10% of the users really call inside Slack. At the beginning, we had like bot commands, slash commands, so it's fun. It's like, but I mean, like you're not going to type a dot like call or dot whatever. Each time you want to launch a call, it's better like to click on a link and launch your call. And still, because we install Hotspot, a channel and a Slack bot, and the bot we have been using it mainly for pushing reportings and analytics, meaning. We do these integrations with Salesforce, Zendesk, Pipedrive. So at the end of the day, we parameter like some reportings. Each user can get like, you did great today, and we can make it friendly. You made, I don't know, 20 calls, 30 calls. You can get reportings. I mean, so for this kind of like notifications, it's not really chat, but that people feel rewarded and that they get some activity report instead of going inside a reporting tool. Okay, so this is a slide from last year I had. So to update, so we all agree that, yeah, I mean, we agree build or buy. I mean, we are more in a build direction instead of buying. By 2020, 75% of application purchases supporting digital businesses will be build, not buy. Okay, so we have to agree on the definition. I can share what we live. For instance, CPaaS, as we can see it, and as we experience with Apidaze, is really like for enterprise, or if you have RESCOM, like for Telestacks for telcos, or embedded into apps, like I want to do some messaging or automate something like with Uber and Airbnb or whatever. But there's a lot of things that natively CPaaS doesn't do, and you have to rely on other layers and do other integrations like data analytics, reporting, one-click integrations. You actually have to take these APIs and integrate them, and so on. And SMBs, I mean, our core target is companies now from 10 to 50 people, and probably one day from 10 to 100. I think it will not be companies from, I don't know, 1,000. There are other players in this segment. And also, if you see the Slack figures, the average size of the paid team is 40 people. So that's approximately where we'll be saying. But for this, I mean, we lived 3 years with Apidaze, and now 1.5, one selling hardly with Hotspot. SMBs, they will never like build their phone system by themselves using an API. That's not true. They will be looking for another solution, or they will rely on an integrator or reseller that is using, for instance, Wazoo or another solution. So what's next was my 2016 slide to see if I'm lying from one year to another. So we extended to the other platforms other than Slack. We had a big call center focus. I mean, call center is really based now on the tools. It's Zendesk for support and Salesforce for sales. And people are really like, I mean, when people now, companies equip themselves saying, I have like this department, what software I choose and what do I put behind. What they like also with Hotspot is that you have Zendesk Talk or Salesforce dialer or whatever, is that it's like a universal dialer for all the apps. So we have customers with multiple integrations, and that's also one of the benefits of using Hotspot. So for 2017, and we'll check next year, we're probably going to extend to Stride and G Suite. There are great things. I think Dialpad came out with a Google add-on. It's a new thing they did. It's something we have been thinking of. It's always the logic of how do you enter to consume the software. What people like in Hotspot is like Slack authentication. They press the buttons and the thing is done. The directory is pushed, and then they can invite people, install the integrations, and it's very fast. That's what we want to extend. We're going to launch a call widget, but embedded in the Hotspot offer, so that people can put a WebRTC call widget, but natively, which is one of the most popular usages with APIs. And also, we started working a little bit on speech analytics. So we have a lot of things like in the middle, in progress. One of the things I can share is, for instance, you have a number. Is to have meeting minutes transcribed. It's not an easy thing to do, but like you dial in with you have a conference call and you ask a number to dial in, you record and you transcribe and you give back the thing. So this the typical use cases. I think nobody likes to write meeting minutes that we're going to work in, and also speech analytics for call reporting can be interesting. The guys from Voxbone have been doing, I think, nice things like a little bit like sentiment analysis, analyzing like the lengths of when you're like a sales guy is on the phone. It's a nice metric to have. How long did he talk? How long did he listen? And so on. These kind of metrics are interesting, and it's again something that you will not find standard in telephony solutions. The other thing is Hotspot Connect. We're also in progress. So Hotspot Connect will be another way of connecting Hotspot to older or more legacy phone systems. We have a lot of customers who say, like, let's say we have Ring Central. We don't want to do an integration. What we want from Hotspot is like the Salesforce or the Zendesk integration. So we're working by giving like some kind of connectors to do that. We won't do it for all of them, but for the most popular. And of course, we are going to try to have more exposure on the CPaaS marketplaces. I mean, we are very attracted to this concept of App Store marketplace that we experience on Slack, and very curious to see it also. We are already of course, on the VoIP Innovations showroom marketplace. but we're open to be distributed. And it's interesting in 2018 to see what is going to bring business-wise. So that was it. Thank you. I think you have time for questions.
Unfortunately not.
No? Okay,
so,
I talked too
but
much.
that was a great presentation. Also, I think it's really interesting to see in just 3 years the evolution from being an app within Slack to being an app you download that then uses Slack, Zendesk, and a number of other CRM platforms.
Yeah.
So it's almost like, so not exactly hijacking, but it's sort of riding the different app stores to just use them as channels to get hotspots in as many, small to medium enterprises as possible. Because you're right, it is that 40 people limit. It's like we use Slack for TADS. We have 2,000. I can't afford to basically do a paid plan with them. But anyway, enough ranting.
I will offer you.
Again, thanks so much, Lewis.